Well, hello everyone, I'm back for another update here. I'm now on a road walk. Decided to do a road walk today. I haven't been up this way in a long time. They did receive a little bit of snow up in the higher elevations last night here, but it did not make it down to the valley. We just got rain down below. It's like they got perhaps a couple of inches up on the top of that ridge you see in the distance there. So what I'm going to talk about today is more on what's going on with the climate, what's going on with the deception of man-made global warming. The latest being approximately a week ago, Washington, D.C. hit 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty close to 25 C. And of course it broke a record. It was all over the news. Is it man-made global warming that's, as the article claimed, that this is becoming the new normal, it's becoming more frequent, that these temperatures have been reached in the wintertime at that latitude. And is that really true, first of all? And why did Washington, D.C. get up to 80 degrees in the last week of January? Is it really man-made global warming? Is this going to start happening every year? The synoptic reason why that happened, I'm going to go into synoptic first. You had a flow of air being transported from south of Baja in the Pacific Ocean. There was a jet stream that carried air from off of Central America through the Gulf of Mexico up into the southeastern U.S. and up to D.C., and it made it up to just past Baltimore before it got stopped by a very cold air mass over eastern Canada that stopped the advance of the warm air just north of Baltimore, Maryland. And so this warm air mass made it practically unmodified a straight line from the equator up to Washington, D.C. That's a synoptical reason. But there's a bigger reason. As I said in my last video, the MJO is being manipulated to create a warm flow of air over the U.S., especially the eastern U.S. And this leads to an increased frequency of warm weather events It had really nothing to do, it's not man-made, other than the fact that man's altering the jet stream and the path it's taking and trying to keep it on a path that will bring warm weather to the populated areas of the world, and lack of snow as well in the winter. And I believe it's only been going on for a couple of years. They just developed this or started using this technology very recently, last 2 years. Because prior to that, there had been an increase in snowfall, a long-term increase until the last 2 years. Along with long-term decrease in hurricanes, which they started with hurricanes around 2018, I think, with Dorian. As you could see, there was an uptick. It was a downtick from 2007, and then it hit 2018. Suddenly, there was an uptick. And then it went down again because the first year or two they did it, it worked very well, but then after that, as with anything man-made, it starts to wear off, and like a drug. You get the first hit, it really does a number on you, and then as you keep taking the drug, it has less and less of an effect on you. You got to take more and more of it to get the same hit. Same thing with this. It might work really good the first couple of years they do it, and then like a drug, they have to do it more and more to get the same results. So yeah, they're really doing a good job in keeping the snow away from places like New York City and DC and all the populated areas of the eastern U.S. the last couple of years. And it's very easy. People are starting to really believe the climate has changed, even though this has only gone on for a couple of years. They're really starting to jump on the bandwagon, thinking it's never going to snow again, and ski areas are all going to go bankrupt soon, and it's the end of winter as we know it on the horizon. Is that really true? If it was really global warming and solar activity was up and a long-term increase, and we were going into a climate optimum, like what happened 1,000 years ago or more, where Greenland was settled and vineyards were grown way up north in Europe where they're not today, I would say maybe that could be true, because during those years, very likely there were extended periods of time when the east coast of the U.S. got little to no snow every winter. And the weather was more benign than we've witnessed in our lifetimes during that time period, which is why civilizations usually flourish during times of true global warming, because the climate becomes very benign. North Atlantic becomes, compared to today, very free of storminess. Northern latitudes, Arctic ice recedes and stays, and perhaps even completely melts off. It creates a new, very benign climate for most of the northern hemisphere. That happens. And mankind flourishes during these periods. During times of true global cooling, the weather becomes more extreme, unpredictable, more stormy, which is what's been happening lately. But is this going to go on? Is winter as we know it going to become extinct? Is there true global warming going on? When we think about it, there are some areas that have been getting very little snow lately, but other areas are getting pounded. And overall, Northern Hemisphere snow mass has been above average for several years straight now. So there are some places that are getting the snow. It's just not where people live. You got to realize that most of the Earth's population lives in a very small area of the Earth, relatively speaking. Oceans cover 73 or more percent of the Earth's surface. And most of mankind is holed up in cities in very small areas geographically on the planet, relatively speaking. So if mankind wanted to manipulate the weather and make people believe that global warming was going on when it wasn't, if there was a way they could control the path of the jet stream to where they could keep it locked in one position all winter, over where the populated areas are constantly in the warm loop of the jet stream, and uninhabited areas or relatively uninhabited areas get all the bad weather that comes with a cooling climate. And the same areas month after month get the warm weather, warmer than average, even tropical weather. Somebody hauling some wood there. But yeah, that's what I feel is happening right now. The last couple of years, they have managed to keep the jet stream for most of the winter locked in a position that favors warm weather for the populated areas of the planet. Obviously, though, if some places are not getting any snow, there's other places in the hemisphere, perhaps over the oceans or less populated areas, that are getting pounded right now with record snow, record cold. It's been on the news lately that Anchorage, Alaska, for the second straight year, interestingly enough, has gotten over 100 inches of snow. And they're on course to break their all-time snowfall record. I mean, they were only 30 inches away from it, breaking their all-time record, and it's not even February yet. Winter's not even half over. They've already gotten 100 inches of snow. Again, why is that the case? It's the case because, again, the jet stream is been locked in one position mostly. And all the storms, winter storms, and cold weather are over Alaska, where hardly anybody lives. Over that part of the Pacific, south of there. That's where all the snow is going. The east coast of the U.S., in contrast, it looks like New York City is headed for the second straight year of single-digit snowfall for the season. And that's what they want. They want that because for Alaska, they can make up the excuse, oh, well, you know, the air has got more moisture because of global warming, so they're going to get more snow there. No, they're getting more snow because the jet stream is sending all the storms, the troughs, the winter storms up in that direction. And if all the troughs and cold weather and storms are going up toward Anchorage, what is that doing to the U.S.? It's creating a flow of air from the equator that's going to invade most of the U.S. to their east. You got a low pressure over Alaska most of the winter. You're going to get warm weather over most of the U.S. And then cold weather over eastern Canada and the North Atlantic downstream. Again, it ties in with what they're doing with the MJO. They're shooting energy into certain areas to encourage convection. This in turn modulates the jet stream to take a certain position. If they can keep doing that all winter effectively, they they can keep the weather warm in certain areas of the world and where most of the people live. Thus, brainwashing people into believing that man-made global warming is really happening, when in reality the opposite is happening due to reduced solar activity. Getting into solar cycle 25, the sunspot count has rapidly descended this past week. It's down to 50 or so. Cosmic ray count has been creeping back up. And as I've been saying, both magnetic fields, northern and southern, have both reversed on the sun, meaning that in 2023, the sun has maxed out. And it's a possibility that we could already be descending into the next minimum as I speak. And the predictions are that solar cycle 26 is not going to be much of a cycle. There's also evidence that they're focusing more on the phase 6 now. Before last year it was 4 and 5, and they managed to keep it there last year most of the winter. This year it's more 6, which still brings very warm weather to the eastern U.S., but does bring colder weather to the west. But they don't care much about the west. They want to see places like New York City get no snow for a number of years straight to convince people that winter is done. That's where a lot of people in the world live. Or they live in Western Europe. I saw an article about the Alps, that skiing in the Alps is going to be defunct in a few years, because they've been lacking snow there. Well, why have they been lacking snow there? Again, it's the positioning of the jet stream. Because to their east in Turkey, they've gotten inundated with record snowfall. Feet of snow have fallen, records have been broken, but they don't really care much about Turkey. They care about the Western Hemisphere. If they can keep snow from coming to the Alps, ski areas suffer. People in Europe are going to be convinced that true global warming is hit, and they're going to adopt the policies that they're trying to promote. As I've been saying, the Tonga eruption has warmed the planet up to some degree and kind of mitigated the cooling that's been occurring, which is making what they're doing with the MJO even more effective, I feel. That's going to wear off in the next year or two, and we already see it starting to wear off now, because we've seen more snow here this year than last year. It's still been mild, but we've already gotten double or more of the snow this year, snow days, versus last year. That is going to be it for this video. I hope you found it interesting.